Combat specialist Vraktar flexed his chitinous exoskeleton as he reviewed the intelligence briefing on humanity's military capabilities. The holographic display showed anatomical scans of the species that had somehow convinced three-member worlds to grant them territorial rights in the Outer Rim. "Look at this," he gestured to his squad of Kethmori warriors, their armored carapaces gleaming under the command ship's harsh lighting. No natural armor plating. Single-layer skin that tears with minimal pressure. Soft internal organs completely exposed. And they call themselves a military species. The squad chittered in amusement, their mandibles clicking in rhythm. Vraktar had commanded xenobiology units for 2 decades, studying the military potential of dozens of species across the galaxy. Humans ranked among the most pathetically vulnerable he had ever encountered. "Sir," interrupted Intelligence Officer Yixthal, "the briefing indicates humans have achieved several territorial victories against species with superior physical characteristics." "Impossible," Vraktar dismissed with a wave of his armored appendage. "Their bone density is laughable compared to Rigelian calcium carbide skeletons. Their muscle fiber efficiency rates barely reach 60% of Altarian standards. A single strike from a Kethmori warrior would shatter their entire torso." The tactical display, updated with recent conflict data from the disputed colony world of Kepler 438 CE. Human forces had somehow repelled a crystalline invasion force, a species whose silicon-based warriors could survive direct plasma cannon strikes. "Perhaps they employ superior technology," suggested weapons specialist Quindar. "Advanced armor systems or defensive fields." Vraktar pulled up the equipment analysis. Negative. Standard kinetic weapons, basic metal alloys for protection, chemical-based medical supplies. Their most advanced battlefield technology appears to be pressure bandages. The squad erupted in derisive clicking. Pressure bandages were what primitive species used to temporarily slow bleeding until proper regeneration chambers could rebuild damaged tissue. The idea that an advanced military would rely on such crude medical intervention was absurd. "Command has assigned us to observe human combat capabilities firsthand," Vraktar announced. "We'll deploy to Kepler 438c and witness their supposed military prowess during the next territorial dispute." 3 days later, the Kethmori observation team positioned themselves in concealed positions overlooking a strategic mountain pass where human and Zephyrian forces had agreed to settle their boundary dispute through combat trial, a civilized alternative to full planetary warfare. Vraktar activated his bioscanners as the human unit took positions across the valley floor. 12 soldiers in basic metal armor, carrying projectile weapons that his scanner indicated were barely capable of penetrating Zephyrian natural-scale armor. "This will be over quickly," he muttered, focusing his instruments on the lead human, a female designated as Sergeant Chen, according to the translation matrix. The Zephyrian war party emerged from the opposite ridge, 8 warriors whose crystalline bodies could regenerate from battle damage within hours. Their natural weapons could slice through starship hull material. Against 12 soft-bodied humans with primitive equipment, the outcome seemed predetermined. Combat began with a Zephyrian charge. Their crystal blade appendages struck the first human soldier with enough force to cleave him completely in half at the waist. Vraktar's scanner confirmed massive trauma, severed spine, destroyed organs, catastrophic blood loss. "Fatal strike," he noted in his report. "Human combat effectiveness reduced by 8.3%. But the bisected human didn't fall. Instead, Sergeant Chen tossed something to the wounded soldier, a small cylindrical device that the human immediately activated and pressed against his severed torso. What happened next defied every principle of xenobiology in Vraktar's database. The human's separated halves began reconnecting, not through technological intervention or medical nanotechnology, but through some impossible biological process. Muscle fibers reached across the gap, organs reconstituted themselves, and bone tissue regrew in real time. "Scanner malfunction," Quindar whispered, his mandibles frozen in shock. "Negative," Vraktar replied, his voice barely functional. "Bio readings are accurate. The human is regenerating." Within 47 seconds, the soldier stood completely whole, raised his weapon, and resumed combat as if nothing had happened. The second human to suffer critical damage, a projectile that destroyed most of his chest cavity, activated a similar device and underwent the same impossible regeneration. Then a third human lost an arm to a Zephyrian blade strike and simply reattached it using what appeared to be a standard field medical kit. "This is impossible," Ixel stammered. "Regeneration at this speed requires enormous metabolic energy. Their bodies should be consuming themselves trying to fuel the process." Vraktar watched in growing horror as human after human suffered what should have been lethal damage, only to regenerate and continue fighting. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians, despite their natural regenerative abilities, couldn't match the speed and efficiency of human battlefield recovery. The engagement ended with complete human victory. 8 Zephyrian warriors lay permanently disabled, while all 12 human soldiers stood ready for continued combat, despite having collectively suffered enough damage to kill 3 Keithlori battalions. Command Vraktar activated his emergency communication array. "We need immediate xenobiology consultation." "The humans aren't using advanced technology. They're using advanced biology." Clarify, combat specialist. "Sir, intelligence reports describing humans as fragile are catastrophically incorrect. They don't avoid damage because they're weak. They ignore damage because they can instantly recover from anything that doesn't completely destroy their central nervous system." A long pause filled the communication channel. "Are you suggesting that humans are naturally regenerative?" "Not naturally, sir. The devices they're using appear to be artificial enhancers, but the baseline regenerative capability is definitely biological. They've somehow modified their own species for battlefield regeneration." As the observation team prepared their full report, Vraktar reviewed the tactical implications. A species that could recover from dismemberment in under a minute would be nearly impossible to defeat through conventional warfare. Every battle would be a war of attrition that humans couldn't lose. "Sir," Quindar interrupted his analysis. "Intercepted human communications indicate this was a basic infantry unit equipped with standard field medical supplies." The implications crystallized with terrifying clarity. If this was basic human military capability, what were their elite forces capable of? What did advanced human medical technology look like? Recommendation for command? Yixthel asked. Vraktar watched the human soldiers casually checking their equipment, showing no signs of fatigue despite their recent regeneration from mortal injuries. Immediate diplomatic contact. Full territorial concessions. Whatever they want. "Sir?" "Yixthel, we've been evaluating their military potential based on their ability to avoid damage. We never considered that they might have eliminated the concept of damage entirely." As the human unit disappeared into the mountain pass, Vraktar realized the galaxy's understanding of humanity required complete revision. They hadn't been hiding their strength. They had been hiding the fact that conventional concepts of strength and weakness simply didn't apply to them. The fragile appearance wasn't a vulnerability. It was a trap.